Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. I hope all of you have had a fantastic week, and I hope that you're looking forward to an even better weekend. Students, in this class we are looking at IELTS reading. Specifically, this reading topic will be about touchscreen technology. So again, IELTS is an international English proficiency exam, and the topics are usually regarding common concepts that most people are familiar with around the world, and touchscreens certainly, with mobile phones, with self-checkouts, with tablets, and a lot of other touchable digital surfaces around the world. Most people are familiar with them. Welcome, Fong. Hi, Dylan, Natty. Good to have our members joining in. Students, this is a members chat class. To join the chat, you have to be a member of our YouTube channel. You can become a member by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button. Welcome, Carolina, Chen, and Alexi. Good to see 3 of our moderators in this class as well. And this lesson, this material is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS success. Visit us there where you can find lots more reading materials. For general IELTS and general IELTS reading, check us out at gieltshelp.com. Now, general IELTS students, beware that section 3 reading in the general IELTS is very, very similar to the reading passages of the academic IELTS exam. Section 1 and 2 are a bit different, so pay attention for that. This is our academic IELTS website here, aehelp.com. We will use this in a bit, members, to interact with each other for the reading. I will ask some of you to help me read some paragraphs, interpret the information, and answer some questions. So for all of you watching, you can join the Premium IELTS package by clicking this big red button that I just circled right above my head there. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. You're welcome to try it for free by clicking the green button there. Same idea for the general IELTS. You've got the red button there. You can click that to join the Premium IELTS package. We are an IDP affiliate. We're a British Council partner. We're an IELTS test registration center. We have helped thousands and thousands of students to pass their IELTS exam. If you want to read some of those success stories, you can do that right off the home page right there, or even click on Read Success Stories just to see all of those beautiful students who are now studying in universities, living in the countries where they choose to be. So you can check those out on the website. And on the websites, you can use this code GAMER9 for an additional 10% discount. Check out the schedules for these live IELTS classes on Instagram, IELTS_AEHelp, GIELTSHelp. We also have lots of vocabulary and other free goodies for you there. And if you have questions, you can send me an email to adrian@aehelp.com or admin@aehelp.com. And for those of you who like to have physical books, like paper books to study from, they do have their advantage and their disadvantages. You can get our books from Amazon. AE Helps Academic IELTS, GE Helps General IELTS. Not as environmentally friendly, but very good for taking notes and having it in front of you, making sure that you study regularly. So ups and downs there. All right, for our schedule right now, we've got reading, and then we've got listening, part 3, part 4. That will be a subscribers chat class, so make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can join that chat. And then tomorrow we'll have speaking part 2 and speaking part 3. As well, we have a new video for everybody. It's a very good video for speaking. Check that out. There you go. I've just put that into the chat. All right. Let's see what's going on. Yeah, Natty, Natty's asking about the schedule. It's a little bit interesting. We've got daylight savings. So if you're in a country where you have daylight savings, you're going to experience a change in the schedule. But in most countries around the world, or in many countries, we don't have daylight savings anymore, which means that we don't change the clocks in the fall and spring hours. So it doesn't change in a lot of countries. That's why we're trying to keep the same schedule. And in fact, I've heard a rumor, everybody, this is kind of interesting, that Canada is going to stop doing daylight hours from potentially next year. So it looks like the practice of daylight savings hours, where some countries change their clocks, might be coming to an end. And that's interesting because that's also a signal for globalization, which means we're slowly but surely becoming one big global human race. And that's a beautiful evolution of humanity. And I think getting rid of daylight hours is maybe a sign of that future as well. A reading passage on daylight savings would be an interesting one. All right, students, so let's get into some reading strategies. Absolutely, Natty. I believe it's absolutely something positive. We should unify as one global human race, and that's, I think, our better future. I definitely agree. That's how we're going to evolve and step into the next phase of human evolution, by accepting all people in all places, regardless of race, creed, religion, and so forth, and working together for the betterment of the environment and humanity as one species. Absolutely. All right, we'll get there. We'll get there. We'll get there. All right, reading strategies, students. First of all, read the title. That's number one. Here, let's do it like this. First, read the title and think about it. Visualize it. Ask what, why, how. Okay, that's what you should do when you see the title. That's right, Alexi. Visualize, think critically, and I don't know if that's a pink pudding or a pink poop, but it's a pink something. All right, let's do that. Let's take a look. This is our reading passage for today. All right. Touch screens, 20th century invention, 21st century commonplace. Okay. All right. So let's think about that. Let's visualize it. When you visualize a touch screen, what do you see? It's a good question. You should always ask yourself that question when you're studying at home. So when I read this title, what do I see? And, you know, as insane as it sounds, it's crazy as it sounds, it's not really crazy. You should ask yourself these questions aloud at home when you're practicing. Ask and answer. It's a great way to practice your English and train your thinking. And no, you're not insane. Haven't gone crazy. It's good practice. Okay? Yeah, we tend to have this feeling like if I'm talking to myself, I've gone crazy. No, talking to yourself is absolutely normal. Okay? It's good. Okay? All right. Okay. Carolina says, I read that emoji started as an ice cream, but over time people see it as poop poop is P-O-O-P, Carolina. Otherwise, you're saying pop, which is the drink. Weird, right? Pop, poop, so close together. All right, Alexi says, tiny surface that accesses to me to use my tablet. All right, what else do you see? So, visualize, what do you see? Okay. What is a good app to think about when you're thinking about the touchscreen? So there's definitely an app. I don't know about you, but there's definitely an app that comes to mind for me. I see myself checking out a map. Okay. Zooming in, zooming out. Okay, I'm looking for a good ice cream shop near my home. So I'm using Google Maps. I just typed in ice cream shop and all those little location dots appeared. And I'm zooming in and I'm moving around and I'm zooming in and I'm moving around and I'm tapping on it. Tap, tap, tap. Okay, so you should see that. Natty says, I'm playing Candy Crush. Candy Crush Saga. My mom is so addicted to that game. Yeah, could be another one, right? Gaming with touchscreen. Absolutely. Okay, that's a good one. That's what you should see. Why is it important to see an image like that? So, Alexi, I think your visualization's okay, but it's not personal enough. So why is it good, members, to have this very clear, personal picture regarding the topic of the reading? It's a question. So why is it a really good idea to create a clear, detailed, and personal image in relation to the topic, especially when it connects like this, right? I mean, I think, it's safe to say that we all use touchscreens, right? So why is it really good idea to create this detailed and personal image in relation to the topic of the reading passage? What do you think? Nani says, to understand what we are going to read about, absolutely. So when the brain feels like it's connected, related to the information, it's not just like, oh, it's touchscreens over there somewhere in the distance. So when it feels like, no, it's personal, it's me, this is mine, this is what I do, the brain immediately goes, okay, I got to get this, I got to understand this, right? Because this is important for me. This might be connected to my survival. It's an ancient, innate, instinctual ability for the brain to work much better, much harder when it feels a tight relation with the information. Okay. So to understand, yes, absolutely. To comprehend, to recall, and to use information. It is best when we feel personally involved. Okay, especially in today's world where we have so much excessive information, that the brain just takes any information that's not related and bang, bing, bang, bing, bang, bing, 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 just throws it away. Okay, that was the sound of information deflecting off my brain. But when it's personal, touchscreens, oh, that's something I do. Let's absorb that. Let's not deflect it, right? So that's why we want to do that. Okay, so we've done that. And I would take it one step further, right? So I would look at this title and think 20th century invention, 21st century commonplace. So I would think, why is that included? So why do we have this this time indication? And my answer before reading is probably because it took a while for this technology to really develop and become popular. Okay, so I would think about that with it's not just touch screens. It's touch screens colon 20th century invention, 21st century commonplace. So oftentimes big inventions, they take time to crystallize and to become popular. Oftentimes people are a little bit scared of big new inventions, right? Like radio, television. Oh, it's magic, it's evil. Photograph, the camera is an interesting one, right? It took quite a while before everybody had a camera. So it's a big invention, it's a big innovation for humanity, and it was invented in the 20th century, and then it took a while. So humans weren't, the pen was a good substitute for a long time, right? Okay. All right. So now we've got this personal feel for the passage, and we're interested, right? You should be interested in what you're reading. It's a really, 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 really bad idea, students, to be disinterested in the IELTS. In fact, it's such a bad idea, I'll make a quick note about it, okay? So it is a very bad idea to feel disinterested in the IELTS exam for any topic in any section, okay? Keep an open mind and become interested in whatever topic the IELTS throws at you. Okay, I've been teaching IELTS for a number of years now, and when I'm in a social group, oftentimes topics will come up, and then I've got something to say because I've read about it in an IELTS passage or in a TOEFL passage. In fact, a great example, just a couple of days ago, I was walking with my family, and there were some daisies. It's a type of flower. And I was saying to my wife, the daisy gets its name from the day's eye because it blossoms or blooms when dawn is, so when the sun's coming up. So a long, long time ago, it got this name, the day's eye, in Old English, and it became the word daisy. And my wife looks at me, she goes, "How do you know that?" And I'm like, well, it was in a TOEFL reading passage about daisies. And I remembered it. I haven't seen that passage in a few years now, but I remembered it because I thought it was interesting, right? So be interested in what you read and what you hear and what you say, okay? So the daisy, the day's eye, okay? It's the day's eye. It turns towards the sun and blooms when the sun comes up in spring, okay? All right. But anyway, not about the daisy here. It's about touch screens, 20th century invention. So we continue with the same concept when we look at the questions here. So we look at the questions next, okay? Don't read yet in the real IELTS. This is happening quickly. So you look at the title, think about it for half a minute. Shouldn't, don't take a lot of time there. Half a minute. Then look at the questions, see if they are helpful. If the questions include information from the passage, they are helpful. So you want to read it. And this is reading, everybody, so read with me, okay? Title of a summary topic. Okay, so that means it's basically a summary of the entire passage. All right, so title of summary topic. Let's look at this. And then we've got subtopics, which is really helpful. Capacitive touchscreens, resistive touchscreens. Okay, so right away I noticed that there's two types of touchscreens that are going to be discussed in this passage, which is good. Okay, Johnson's touchscreens used something as an insulator and transparent conductor coating. The something worked as the conductor, and because the dose of electricity was small, it did not affect the person's health. Or so we believe, right? Now, when you're doing these, read quickly. Don't worry about the blanks yet. We'll figure those out after we read the passage. Resistive touchscreens. This technology was developed by accident. Instead of making calculations by hand, they used a special kind of which conducted electricity. When the researchers applied for a patent for the technology, they were denied. Patent officers did not believe the technology had something applications outside of the laboratory. Okay, now if you see some new words while you're reading the questions that are, confusing, like patent, what's a patent? Don't worry about it. Okay, just keep going. So the idea here is not to answer the questions before you read. It's just to get a little bit of help. So you can read nice and fast. You can read like this. Hearst was no longer bothered by worries about, so he toiled off with his off hours with friends and refined his invention. Okay, fine. So if you can read that fast, it's okay. You don't have to have lots of comprehension here. Just get a good idea of it. Okay. No hands required. Hearst developed his technology to the point while one could still use a finger to manipulate the touchscreen, a person could also use a device akin to a pen with no ink. Okay, fine. Now, here we've got some true, false, not given. Those types of questions, of course, big no. We don't know which ones are given, which ones are not. So, not very helpful. Let's go to the passage and let's read. Okay. Now, read aloud, please. That means so we can hear you. I can hear you. Checking your mic. What? Where can you hear me? No, I can't hear you, but I would like to imagine that I can hear you. Okay, so let's do this. Let's read together. Here we go. Read from the title. Touchscreens, 20th century invention, 21st century commonplace. The touchscreen is everywhere in modern society. While the most commonplace touchscreens are encountered is mobile phones, touchscreens are also found in ATMs, grocery stores, computers and tablets, parking meters, cars, restaurants, medical equipment, and countless other applications. They are a part of everyday life that most people take for granted. But how did they come to be? How do they work? Now, that's my thesis, right? So I can predict that this is what the passage will discuss, is how they came to be and how they work. All right, let's keep going. Read with me, everybody. So follow with my pace, okay? Here we go. The first touchscreen was developed in the mid-1960s by British scientist A.E. Johnson while working for the Royal Radar Establishment in Malvern, UK. Johnson's invention utilized what came to be known as capacitive touch technology. It worked by using an insulator, usually glass, that had a transparent conductor coating such as indium tin oxide. The finger acted as a conductor for electricity, a very small amount that was not damaging to a person's health that activated the desired input. This device had limitations. First, it could not handle multiple touches at the same time. That is, the device could only register one touch at a time. Second, it could not register sensitivity. It was like a light switch that registered either on or off, and nothing in between. Touchscreens that could handle variations of pressure would not come until decades later. Though Johnson's touchscreens were lacking certain aspects of modern touchscreens, they still found important uses in the latter decades of the 20th century. His touchscreen technology was implemented by air traffic controllers in the United Kingdom and was still in use in the late 1990s. Okay, first body paragraph. Johnson, capacitive touchscreen, using the finger, right? One touch point. I've got that. Johnson's my buddy. Maybe I'm Johnson. I'm doing this. Okay? Though Johnson's touchscreen was used throughout the latter part of the 20th century, it was quickly overshadowed in popularity by a different type of touchscreen technology, resistive. This technology was developed by accident in the early 1970s by J.S. Hurst while working at the University of Kentucky. While working through the night on a particle accelerator, Hurst and his team wanted a faster way to complete their computations. They came upon the solution of using electrically conductive paper to read coordinates instead of calculating them by hand. A side effect of this work was that the electrically conductive paper also worked as a touchscreen. The University of Kentucky applied for a patent but was rejected. The discovery did not seem to the patent officers to have any relevant applications beyond the laboratory. Freed from intellectual property concerns, Hurst later worked during his off hours with a team of inventors, scientists, and engineers who also happened to be friends on refining his chance invention. Hurst knew that the technology was promising. How it worked was quite simple. The previously mentioned electrically conductive paper was used to cover a sheet containing the X and Y axes, which were connected to a power source. When pressure was put on the conductive cover sheet, voltage was allowed to pass between the X and Y wires, which was then instantaneously measured to indicate the position of the pressure. One advantage of resistive technology over capacitive technology was that it did not require the toucher to be specifically a finger. While it could certainly still be a finger, it could also be a stylus, a kind of pencil type device to operate the touchscreen. In the 1990s, this led to a generation of so-called personal digital assistants, which used a stylus to operate a resistive touchscreen. Today, resistive touchscreens are still common around the world because they are cheaper and more durable. These devices can be found today in hospitals, factories, restaurants, and other retail environments. The next technological development, which was critical for the device you have in your pocket, is the ability for a touchscreen to be contacted in more than one position, i.e., with two fingers at once. This functionality is fundamental to the operation of modern smartphones. Multiple finger gestures are made to zoom in and out of web pages, photos, or maps, among other useful functions. Interestingly, this technology is built upon the foundations laid by E.A. Johnson in the 1960s and 70s. The capacitive aspect of the touchscreen, while certainly more complex than previous iterations, is fundamentally the same as that from half a century ago. Modern modifications have allowed for multiple touch points as well as pressure gradations, but the technology is remarkably similar to its origins. One negative aspect of capacitive touch technology is that the user cannot use a stylus or other object since these objects do not conduct electricity like a finger. But this has changed in recent years. For example, in 2015, Apple unveiled the Apple Pencil, which used highly responsive sensors built into the tip of the pencil to detect force, position, and pencil tilt to provide a multitude of effects. What is the future of touchscreens? 50 years since their advent, the possibilities seem endless. One fact seems doubtless, however. Touchscreens are a huge part of our lives, and all evidence points to this staying the case for the foreseeable future. Awesome. Okay, so students, here's an interesting fact. In the IELTS, there's a good chance that you're going to get a reading passage where you have two, sometimes even more, categories. In this case, we have two types of touchscreens. What are they? Let me do this like this, okay? So in your mind, this should be happening when you're reading this type of passage as you're visualizing this. Okay, so the two types, here, let me get rid of my line attrition. So the two types of touchscreens, what are they? They are capacitive and resistive. Yes, exactly. So capacitive and resistive. Okay. Now, give me facts that you were able to categorize about these. So as we read about these two types of touchscreen technology, there were a lot of comparisons and contrasts. What were they? Give me as many as you can. I'm going to go even to a tinier thickness of pen here. So what can you remember? What are some of the differences between these? First of all, the inventors. Okay. Alessi says one supports two or more fingers and the other doesn't. Okay, which one does, which one doesn't? So don't just tell me one does this, the other does that. Tell me which one does which. Okay, it's very important. Okay. So Chayani says resistive found by accident. Accident, yes. To do math calculations, right? Capacitive sounds like they were purposeful for radar screens, right? So purposeful, absolutely. Chen says capacitive was by E.A. Johnson, yeah, E.A.J. Yes, was the inventor. How about the other one? Hurst, that's right, Chen, G.S. Hurst. Okay, very good. What else do you remember? Give me as many, there's still many more, many more. Yep, very good, Natty. Give me more. So hopefully you visualized a lot more here. Think about all of the W questions like when, where, who, why. Those were all answered in this passage. Okay. Amra says capacitive used an insulator. Yeah. And the resistive used wires, right? The XY wires. Okay, good. Okay. Yes, it was, the insulator was the glass. That's right. So the insulator here was glass. And here, the resistive was a piece of paper, right? Okay. Natty, very good. The time, right? Capacitive was the 60s. Can you imagine? We've had touchscreens for coming up on 60 years now, if you think about it. Some people think they're so new, but they've been around. So 60s and 70s, right? Very good. Okay. There's more. There's even more interesting comparisons here. Okay. So again, think about who, when, where, why, and you can even think about the who, when, where, why in the past and the present. How about the locations? Anybody remember the locations? Even if you don't remember the exact city names, the countries you should remember. Okay. I don't remember a light switch, Chayani. Domenico, we already have the mistake that's up here, accident and purpose. Yep. Natty says England, UK. Which one was England? Which one was invented in the UK? Yeah, Amra, Malvern, UK. Which one? Resistive or capacitive? So it's very important that you don't just remember the difference, but you remember which is which, right? Okay. Lexi says resistive is the University of Kentucky, right? So that's the U.S. in Kentucky. That's right. And capacitive is the U.K. That's right, Chen, in Malvern, U.K. So one was kind of created in the UK, the other in the US. Okay, so students, another really important tip for you when you are reading a passage and you realize that there are categories, you should really clearly form this image in your mind. And you can definitely use your note paper before you answer the questions to create this kind of table before you answer the questions. It's a good strategy to help you answer questions, okay? Everybody clear on that? Yes? So when you see this type of question or this type of passage, so when you see a passage that presents you with categories, it's very common on the IELTS for one passage to be like this. You must create a table that can help you to compare and contrast these categories. Okay, so everybody's got it. Yes, sure. All right. Take notes after you read the passage as we just did. Okay, that will help you. All right, students, let's have some fun. Let's talk to each other. I want some volunteers to give me a ring, and I'll be looking for you members, especially in the chat. So we're going to use the website for this, everybody. Okay, just like with the speaking. So let's go to our website. Let's go to aehelp.com here. And again, for those of you who are watching and don't have access yet, I highly, highly recommend joining the Premium IELTS package by clicking that big red button that's just above my head there. Get into your My Student account. In your My Student account, click on Student Partner Speaking right there. And then you will be in our chat interface where we have Sieda, Carolina, our moderators, Sujal, Odom, Vernica, and so forth. All right, let's take some volunteers. Whoop. Carolina looks like she wants to volunteer. That's great. Let's give her a chance. We don't get to hear Carolina's voice all that often. Okay, Carolina, are you ready? We'll just start it off and get going. All right, Chen and Alexi put the instructions, members, into the chat there for everybody, so just follow those instructions, okay? Hi, Carolina.
Hi, Adrian.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing fantastic, Carolina. Thank you for asking. All right, Carolina, let's have a look at this reading passage. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I'll ask you to read the title in the first paragraph, the introduction for us. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Touch screens, 20th century invention, 21st century commonplace. The touch screens is everywhere in modern society. While the most commonplace touch screens are encountered in mobile phones, touch screens are also found in ATMs, grocery stores, computers, and tablets, parking meters, cars, restaurants, medical equipment, and countless other applications. They are They are a part of everyday life that most people take for granted. But how did they come to be? How do they work?
Okay, good. Any new words in there, Carolina, for you?
No.
No, nothing. Can you tell everybody what the acronym ATM stands for?
Um, it's automatic. I'm not sure, but it's the machine that you find in the banks.
All right, so you got the A and the M, the automatic and the machine part. The middle letter is the tricky one. The T, right? When you go to a bank, the person that gives you the money or helps you with the banking, do you know what they're called in English?
Teller.
Ah, you just
Teller?
got the T. Yeah, that's the T. Yeah, automatic teller machine.
Yes.
You got it. Automatic teller machine. So there's a reason why I asked you to do that. We have so much awesome information in our head. And when we make our brain work for it, it can actually produce the information. So automatic teller machine. Awesome. Carolina, when you read this introduction, what do you see?
Well, I see myself using my cell phone, touching the screen, and scrolling through the apps.
Do you use touchscreens anywhere else other than on your phone?
Nowadays, I use touch screens in my cell phone, my tablet, and also ATMs.
And ATMs as well, right? They've become very common.
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah, so it's good. You want to see all of those, right? Like you want to see yourself using your phone to find the nearest bank. When you find the nearest bank, you are taking money out of the bank using the touchscreen, right? So you see that kind of sequence of information, and that's really, really helpful. Okay, let's jump to the questions. Can you
Okay.
read the first question, so number 27, and read from capacitive touchscreens and try to give us the answer, whatever you think is the answer that fits in there, okay?
Okay. Johnson's touchscreens used a glass as an insulator and a transparent conductor coating. Coating.
Coding. Yeah.
Coating.
Yeah, absolutely. So you think the answer is a glass, used a glass as an insulator and transparent coating conductor. All right, how sure are you? 1 to 10. 10, absolutely 100%. 1, not sure at all.
10.
Okay, good. That's a good answer. Anything above an 8 means you should not skim for the answer. Okay, so one reason why a lot of candidates feel like in the reading there's not enough time and they're going to run out of time is because they're trying to be 100% sure for every single answer. And as soon as they're a little bit unsure, they immediately start skimming and scanning for the answer. That's not a good strategy. Okay, so if you're like pretty sure, like 80%, 90% sure, then you should put that as an answer and leave it and only check if you have more time. Do you understand what I
Okay.
mean? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. That's an important strategy because what happens with a lot of students is they actually have the correct answer, so they're kind of pretty sure and it's actually the correct answer 80% of the time. But then they don't have enough time left to check for the answers where they're only 20% sure or 30% sure because they're wasting time checking answers where they're 80% sure. Do you get my logic there?
Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Okay. All right. Carolina, thank you so much for reading the introduction. And thank you for moderating.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye, Carolina.
Bye. See you.
All right, that was Carolina. Let's give her a thumbs up. We hardly ever hear her voice, and she's always in the chat helping us to stay focused on the topic at hand. So thank you, Carolina. All right, let's take another volunteer. Sang, looks like somebody new who's a premium student. And although I don't see Sang in our group of members, Sang is a premium student, and we should maybe give Sang a chance here. Although Sang just disappeared. Oh no, here, there's Sang. Yeah, Sang. Let's give Sang a shot. Sang, are you ready? We always want to give our premium students a chance. They're helping us help you by keeping our company afloat. Sang, if you're there, let me know, and then we'll get you to read a paragraph for us, okay? Here we go. Hello, Sang. Sounds like you picked up, but I can't hear you. Not sure what's going on there. Sang, you want to make sure that you can connect with Canada through chat. Sometimes people have to use a VPN, especially if you're maybe in China or Taiwan or something like that. And also make sure to check your internet settings and your permissions for your microphone. And so on. There's a lot of moving parts that have to work. So Sang, thank you for being a premium student. I can't hear you. Try with another student and then come back once you know for sure that it works, okay? All right. Let's jump to somebody else here. Amra, one of our members here at the bottom, patiently waiting. Amra, are you ready? Hopefully, yes. Okay. Yes, Samra's there. Okay.
Hello, sir.
Hi, Amra. How are you?
I'm doing well. What about you, sir?
I'm doing quite well also. Thank you for asking. All right, Amra, you ready for a bit of reading?
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
ready.
let's do it. So you'll see the first body paragraph come up on your screen on YouTube here in just a moment. Starting with the first touchscreen was developed. Go ahead and read that for us, please.
The first touchscreen was developed in the mid-1960s by British scientist E.A. Johnson while working for the Royal Radar establishment in Melbourne, UK. Johnson's invention utilized what came to be known as capacitive touch technology. It worked by using an insulator, usually glass, that had a transparent conductor coating such as indium tin oxide. The finger acted as a conductor for electricity, a very small amount that was not damaging to a person's health, that activated the desired input. This device had limitations. First, it couldn't handle multiple touches at the same time. That is, the device could not only register one touch at any time. Second, it couldn't register sensitivity. It was like a light switch that registered either on or off, and nothing in between. Touch screens that could handle variations of pressure would not come until decades later. So Johnson's touch screens were lacking certain aspects of touch screens. They still found important uses in the later decades of the 20th century. His touchscreen technology was implemented by air traffic controllers in the UK. I think I cannot see the rest of the
And was
sentence.
still in use.
And was still in use until the late 1990s.
Okay, nice, good. All right, just a couple of pronunciation words here, Amra. Though. Though Johnson's touchscreens. Okay. Latter decades. It's not later. It's
Latter decades.
Yeah, because of the two T's, it's latter decades. The latter decades means from the 1950s all the way to the 2000. So that's the latter decades. Okay, good. All right, that was some nice reading, nice speed. Amrad, that was great. If you read that quickly for the IELTS, then you should have no problem finishing all of the passages in the 20 minutes. When you practice the IELTS, Amrad, are you able to go through all the passages and questions in the 1 hour time limit?
Actually not. I have a bit problem with that. Finish read more than not in 60 minutes, but in 70 or 80 minutes.
Okay, 70 or 80 minutes. Right, so you run out with about maybe 5 or 6 questions still left in passage 3, something like that. Would that be an accurate assessment?
Yes.
So you get through about 32, 33 of the 40 questions. Okay, so Amra, here's the interesting part. That's probably because of how you're doing it, not your speed. So your reading speed is definitely fast enough that you should be able to get it all done in 60 minutes. So you have to check, why are you losing 5-6 minutes of valuable time? So what's happening? Do you have any idea of why you're losing 5 minutes, 6 minutes? What's happening?
Yes, definitely it is a problem with my, as you said, is my visualization. I cannot visualize text before my eyes, and so I cannot catch the main idea of the passage.
Right, so you're losing a lot of information and you have to keep going back for it, right, to see if you can find it. Yeah, that is probably the number one reason why most candidates who have enough fluency in reading, who are fast enough, aren't able to finish. So it's not the speed that's the issue, the speed of reading, but it's the comprehension. And that's very, very good to identify that, right? Because a lot of people keep working on reading faster, and they still don't finish, right? And it's like, well, I'm reading so fast now, but I'm still not finishing in the 1 hour. What's happening? Well, it's because the speed is not the problem. The comprehension is the problem, right? So it's the comprehension that we need to work on. And of course, understanding vocabulary and visualizing the text. Those are the two big parts of the comprehension. So Amra, here's another question then. Do you ever draw what you read? Like just draw an image?
Yeah, when, for example, when the passage is about history of a country, like we did in the previous week, I am fond of drawing it and dividing it into the separate parts. But there are some passages that I cannot physically imagine them and put it into the paper.
Yeah, that's where it becomes much, much more difficult. And that's a kind of a different topic, but there is a way to visualize abstract information as well. We can always turn abstract information into physical information. There are some really good tips available from professionals on how you can do that. Like, for example, remembering people's names. A name of a person is kind of an abstract concept. And then you can kind of put a visualization to it. So let me give you an example. So your name is Amra, right? And for me, it's always been a challenge to remember names, which is kind of embarrassing because as a person who's an instructor, I deal with a lot of people with a lot of names, and I'm embarrassed when I forget somebody's name. So I try to kind of use some visual tricks to remember, right? So what I think about when I think about your name is arm wrestling. So Amra, arm wrestling Amra. So I'm arm wrestling Amra, and I visualize arm wrestling you, Amra, and that way I remember the word Amra, arm wrestle Amra. So that's how my brain works, to put it together like that. And it's a skill that I've learned from looking at how we can visualize and how we can create these images. And so there is ways to do that. There are these, they're called mnemonic devices that you can use, okay? So try those. Look for mnemonic devices, find ones that work for you, and they will help you to improve your comprehension, okay? And everybody can continue improving. I think Chayani said earlier that capacitive touchscreens are like a light switch. And I was like, where did she read that? But she visualized it. So, Yanni, good for you, because it did say, and I caught it this time, the light switch that registers on or off. So I didn't catch that the first time, but kudos to Yanni for visualizing that. Okay, Amra. By the way, I won the arm wrestle, Amra. I'm going to be honest with you. All right, Amra, can you read number 28 for me, please?
The something worked as a conductor, and because the dose of electricity was small, it didn't affect the person's health.
Okay, what do you think is the answer for capacitive touchscreens here? What is that something?
I will definitely say the answer is finger.
Absolutely, finger. Yeah, I agree with you. And you're probably 10 out of 10 on that, right? The
Yes.
finger. Yeah, I agree with you. And that's very visual, right? We can see it, the finger. And the first one that Karina gave us was glass. We don't need the we just need glass. Okay. All right, good. Amra, thank you so much. Keep working on comprehension. So again, don't worry so much about speed, but continue just working on comprehension, okay?
Okay, sir. I will definitely improve on it.
Awesome. Amra, thank you so much for reading, and we'll talk again soon.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
You too. Bye. All right, that was Amra. Let's give Amra a thumbs up. Nice work, everybody. Finger indeed. All right, Chayani, very clever. I want to reward you by giving you a chance here. So are you ready? Chayani, that was very clever for the on-off switch. Yes, I've read the passage a couple times, to be honest, and I didn't recall that. So I thought, I was like, hey, where's that coming from? Okay. Chayani, if you're there, let me know. So again, students, do keep this in mind that many of you read fast enough to finish the IELTS reading section. It's not the reading, it's the comprehension. Okay? All right.
Hi, sir.
How are you, Yanni?
I'm doing fine today. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thanks for asking. Yanni, are you ready to read?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Now, students, while Yanni's reading, you should also read again. So don't just listen, but also read. This is reading practice. So Yanni is going to be our leader, our guide. So read along with Yanni. Yanni, whenever you're ready, go ahead from though.
Though Johnson touchscreen was used throughout the later part of the 20th century, it was quickly overshadowed in popularity by a different type of touchscreen technology, resistive. This technology was developed by accident in the early 1970s by G.S. Hurst while working at the University of Kentucky. While walking through the night on a particle accelerator, Hurst and his team wanted a faster way to complete their computation. They came upon the solution of using electrically conductive paper to read coordinates instead of calculating them by hand. A side effect of this work was the electrically conductive paper also worked as a touchscreen. The University of Kentucky applied for a patent but was rejected. The discovery did not seem the patent officer to have any relevant application beyond the laboratory. Freed from intellectual property concern, Hurst later worked during his off hours with a team of inventors, scientists, and engineers who also happened to be friends on refining his changed invention. Hurst knew that the technology was promising. How it worked was quite simple. The previously mentioned electrically conductive paper was used to cover a sheet containing the X and Y axes, which were connected to a power source. When pressure was put on the conductive cover sheet, voltage was allowed to pass between the X and Y wires, which was instantaneously measured to indicate the position of the pressure. One advantage of the resistive technology over the capacitive technology was it uh, did not require the author to be specifically a finger. While it could certainly still be a finger, it could also be a stylus, a kind of pencil device to operate the touchscreen. In the 1990s, this led to a generation of so-called personal digital assistant, which use a stylus to operate a resistive touchscreen. Today, resistive touchscreens are still common around the world because they are cheaper and more durable. These devices can be found today in hospitals, factories, restaurants, and more retail environments.
Okay, very nice. Yanni, that is very nice fluent reading, by the way. So you should also, your speed is definitely enough to finish the IELTS reading in 1 hour. Chani, what's a good trick to remember that the resistive touchscreen was invented in Kentucky? How can you how can you remember the place Kentucky? What comes to mind when you hear the word Kentucky? What comes to mind?
The places, you mean?
Yeah, you probably have this in Indonesia. I would imagine that Indonesia has this. There's a fast food chain that's quite popular around the world. Do you know what it is?
I don't know.
KFC. Have you ever been to a KFC?
Okay, yeah.
Have you
I
ever
have ever been that.
Are there KFCs in Indonesia?
Yeah, there is.
There is?
Kind of KFC.
Okay.
And also the subsidiary.
Do you know what KFC stands for?
Yeah, I know. It sells any chicken.
Yeah, but what is the yes, but what is the K and what is the F? So what is this acronym? KFC. What is the K? What is the F? What is the C? It's kind of like the question I asked from Carolina about the ATM, automatic teller machine. What is the KFC? Do you know what it means?
Kentucky Fried Chicken.
It's Kentucky Fried Chicken, right? Exactly. So what I would do here is I would be sitting at a Kentucky Fried Chicken, eating a fried chicken, talking to Hurst. And Hurst is explaining to me how his resistive touchscreen works with the XY axis and the stylus pen and how it's so durable. Maybe he's smashing it on the table with the chicken. And look, I can hit it with a chicken and it still works. And so I'm sitting at Kentucky Fried Chicken with Hurst. Use your knowledge when you're reading. So our brains are filled with knowledge. Here's an interesting fact that you would learn as a psychology student. Did you know, Chayani, that psychologists believe that our brains will actually remember all information that we ever see or hear in our lives? Did you know that?
Yes, I know, and it happened to myself. So I have an ability to remember something, even though it has been a long time. So many people wondered me why I can remember all of that.
And that's a great ability to have. So the problem with our brains isn't remembering, and this is where the magic happens, and this is what everybody should keep in mind in IELTS when you're listening and when you're reading. So the problem isn't remembering the information, because our brain remembers. The problem is recalling the information, so bringing back the information. So the way that we remember information is very, very important, and it's best when we make connections. So as, of course, most people know, our brain works like a web, right? It's like a giant web of connections, right? Like the internet, kind of. It's a giant web of connections. And when we can make some really interesting, strong connections in that web, then our brain is able to use that information very effectively. So here, for me personally, if I imagine that I'm in Kentucky Fried Chicken with Hurst, talking about this resistive technology, touchscreen technology, then I'm going to do a lot better to use that information for the questions. Did you think about Kentucky Fried Chicken when you were reading this this paragraph?
No, it didn't come to my mind.
It didn't come to mind. All right. Well, KFC. Thank you to the Colonel and his secret recipe. Okay, Chayani, let's try to answer some of these questions. So I've got resistive touchscreens on the board. You should see it in a moment. Go ahead and read from resistive touchscreens and read the first one there.
assistive touchscreen. This technology was developed by accident. Instead of making calculation by hand, they used special kind of something which conducted electricity.
Okay, what did they use?
Um, Paper.
Special kind of paper. That's right. Okay, so if we visualized Hurst there showing us his paper at Kentucky Fried Chicken, look at this weird paper that I'm using here, then that will make sense, and that's a good answer. Okay, continue reading the next one, number 30.
When the researcher applied for a patent for the technology, they were denied. Patent officers did not believe the technology had any application outside of the laboratory.
Okay. What comes before applications?
I think it's promising.
Promising applications? Maybe. How sure are you that it's promising? 1 to 10.
0.5%.
0.5. So okay, so it's under 8. Okay, this is where you want to make sure that that you check. Okay, so this is where you'd want to go back. Now this was in the paragraph that you were reading, so this is where we can check. Now here we have this unique word patent. Right? So that's one word that we can check for, because we know that, a lot of this is paraphrased. So looking for the word application might not be there. It could be something like uses, right? So we go back to that that paragraph, and it's somewhere in the middle. I can see it already. Can your eyes catch it? So if you're looking for the word patent, you'll see the word patent quite quickly. And then you'll see the word applications very close to the word patent. Do you see it?
Yeah, it's relevant.
Relevant, that's right. So it's right here, right? So you have the word patent right there, and then you have the relevant applications right there. Okay, so relevant applications. Now you're 100% sure. So that's the type of question where you want to stop and check, okay? All right,
Okay.
Relevant. Good. Okay, let's read number 31. So it's all within the same block. So go ahead and read 31.
Hers was no longer bothered by worries about blah blah blah, so he toiled in his off hours with friends to refine his invention.
Okay. So what is number 31? What would you put there?
I think invention.
Okay, how sure are you?
No. I'm gonna change maybe.
And members, moderators in the chat, you can help Chayani here as well. So let's have some ideas. Let's share. Let's work together as a team here. Hurst was no longer bothered or by worries about what? So in this paragraph, Chayani, and it's okay if you don't know. So again, if you said I'm only 0.5% sure, but you have to kind of have an idea of what it might be, like you did with the previous one, right? So it's very important that you don't just completely randomly try to search for the answer. When somebody gets a patent, right, it means they're protected legally by law. Okay, and remember the University of Kentucky, they wanted ownership of this technology, right? Do you remember that, Chani?
Yeah, I remember.
So here, if I'm reading this, so if you asked me, if you said, Adrian, well, what do you think? I would say, well, Hurst was no longer bothered by worries about ownership. So I would think the answer here is ownership. Like who owns it? You know that when you do like a master's or a PhD for a university, it's usually the university that owns your invention. Did you know that, Chayani?
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, so if you go to a university and you have a big invention and you're like, wow, I just had this huge invention, unfortunately, they're not going to say Chayani invented it. They're going to say the University of Toronto invented it, which is terrible. And then they say, oh no, but it was by Chayani at the University of Toronto, but they'll take ownership of that, right? So Hearst was no longer bothered by words. Like University of Kentucky, they wanted the patent. Can you imagine how rich the University of Kentucky would be right now if they got that patent? Unfortunately, they didn't get that one, but I wouldn't be surprised if they got a few $billion from that later on. Okay, anyway, so I would say ownership, but I'm not sure that's the exact words that they used. So I would go back and I would check. And if we go back and check, we'll find very soon that Dylan and Amra and Fuong in the chat have identified correctly the answer. It's intellectual property. Okay. So here, let's see. Somewhere, yeah. So here you can see it. Freed from intellectual property concerns. Okay, so it's a tricky one. This is for Band 8, Band 9 students on this exam for sure. It's a tricky one, but it's there. Intellectual property concerns. Okay. So in the question, it says no more than 2 words. So we need both words here. Hearst was no longer bothered or worried about intellectual property. Okay. All right. So a bit challenging, but not impossible. You always have to start with your own ideas first. Okay, Chayani?
Okay, sir.
Awesome. Any questions about reading, Chayani?
Yeah. So I already realized by your method that usually what I practice before in the reading, I always run out of time because I didn't like visualizing what the exact answers before searching it in the passage.
Yeah, so that is probably the number one reason why people run out is because they do what's called blind search. So they're blindly searching for answers, and the best trick that they have is to try to match a word. If the only trick a candidate is using is to match a word with the word in the questions, that's not going to happen. You're not going to be able to finish on time, and you're not going to be able to get a lot of the answers correct. The IELTS is designed in such a way to stop that from happening. And of course, there's logic, right? Because in university or at the workplace, that there's just no time to do that, right? So it has to be more active and more critical than simply doing a blind or a word match search. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes sense, sir.
It has to be. Okay, Chani, thank you so much.
Okay.
Have an awesome rest of the day.
Thank you, Adrian. Thank you for helping me.
Okay, welcome. Bye, Chani. All right, that was Chani. That was awesome. Let's give her a thumbs up. Okay, let's take somebody else here. Let's take Domenico, another one of our premium students and regular attending members in Sicily. Domenico, are you ready? So again, students, it does pay to be a premium member. It does pay to be a premium member and a member of the channel. Of course, you're helping us, we're helping you. And we're helping everybody else too. So we've got that subscribers chat class coming up next time as well, right? Domenico.
Hi, Adrian.
How are you, Domenico?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm actually testing out the new features of my new pair of noise cancelling headphones, which I received yesterday. But I feel like I'm getting the hang of them.
Nice.
I'm particularly pleased with my new pair of noise blocking headphones because they fit perfectly. They fit my ears perfectly and feel very comfortable.
Are they over the ear like mine, or are they earbuds that go in your ear?
They are over my ears, and they are quite lightweight. So I'm not feeling them over my ears.
Nice.
So
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. That's great. And you're using the microphone on those headphones as well?
They have a microphone built in.
It's very clear. It's a good mic. Your voice is a bit clearer for me than last time. I think the other people, like, I think the setup you had before was okay too, but it's very clear right now. The sound for sure. So it's good. Nice upgrade. Okay, here we go. So Domenico, let's get to the next paragraph here. I believe we are here. Yes, the next technological development. So go from there.
The next technological development, which was critical for the device you have in your pocket, is the ability for a touch screen to be contacted in more than a position. For example, with 2 fingers at once. The functionality is fundamental to the operation of modern smartphones. Multiple finger gestures are made to zoom in and out on web pages, photos, or maps, among other useful functions. Interestingly, this technology is built upon the foundation laid by E.A. Johnson in the 1960s and 1970s. The capacitive aspect of the touchscreen, while certainly more complex than previous iterations, is fundamentally the same as that from half a century ago. Modern modifications have allowed for multiple touch points as well as pressure gradations, but the technology is remarkably similar to its origins.
Nicely done. Domenico, very well done. First of all, I want to commend you on really putting a lot of effort and energy into reading the punctuations, so the commas, the periods, and you are reading as though you are reading for an audience, which you are, currently an audience of about 130 people or so. And so you're reading to an audience, so you're paying attention to your pronunciation, to those punctuations, and that's exactly what you should be doing when you're practicing at home. In the real IELTS, no. In the real IELTS, don't worry about pronunciation. You just need to make sure you're reading smoothly. But in the real IELTS, you should still pay attention to punctuation, like commas and periods. They're very important, and semicolons. However, when you're reading at home, you should also pay attention to clear pronunciation of the words, and you did that very well. That's a great way to improve your English speaking ability. So good job on that, Domenico. Thank you for reading nicely and
Thank
clear.
you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, Domenico, let's jump to this last question for this set. The no hands required. When you're ready, go ahead and read that no hands required part.
Hertz developed his technology to the point that while one could still use a finger to manipulate the touch screen, a person could also use a device akin to a pen with no ink.
Mm-hmm.
A kind of pencil pen.
What is that pencil pen? Here, let me give you a tip. This is my phone here, and on this phone here, it pops out the bottom. There it is. Voila, like magic. It's right there. Whoop, whoop. There it goes. What is that little thing? You're getting some help in the chat as well.
A stylus.
That's right. It's called a stylus. So a pen that doesn't write, only on digital devices. Stylus.
Yeah, I remember that I can visualize the object in my mind, and I've grasped the main idea of the text, and yeah, I got to visualize this object because I had a kind of smartphone with a kind of pen. You had to touch the screen and scroll up and down,
Yeah. When you hear the word stylus, what other word comes to mind in English? What's a similar word to stylus? And I have a feeling they actually thought about this when they came up with this word. So if I'm dressed really nicely, and in Italy, this is so true, right? People have nice suits, women have beautiful dresses. So Italian people are often dressed in a very something way. It's a very
stylish.
Exactly. It's a stylish way. Stylish.
In a stylish way, yeah.
Exactly. So what I would do here to remember the word stylus is, hey, look at me. I have here's my stylus out of my phone. So there's my stylus, and I can put it behind my ear, and I can be like, hey, look at me. I'm very stylish with my stylus behind my ear there. I'm a stylish guy.
I'm very I'm very fashionable with this pen between my ear and my head.
Exactly, right? We say behind my ear.
Behind, yeah.
All right. Domenico, help me with one of these true, false, not given questions as well, okay? Let's do number 33.
Sure.
You know how to do these, so walk us through it. You'll see it on the screen in a moment here. So number 33, walk us through this question.
Personal digital assistants were developed to facilitate business communication. Facilitate communication. Personal digital assistant. Yeah, the facilitate communication because this.
Walk us through it. Walk us through it. Domenico, you know how to do true, false, not given. First of all, we need to figure out what?
So the touch screen technology actually was developed by mistake, and it does ever since it does improve our way of communication. It does improve our way of communication. Yes, definitely.
We got to simplify here, Domenico. So personal digital assistants, don't change the statement too much. Just keep it simple. So like this, Domenico, let me give you a hand. Is it important for this passage that personal digital assistants, PDAs, were developed to facilitate, to help business communication? Is that important for the passage of touchscreen technology?
No, it isn't. It isn't important actually.
Okay, so what's the answer then? It's
false.
If it's not important, it's not. No. If it's not important, it's not false. If it's not important, then it's not given. Oh, right?
Not given.
Exactly. Yeah. Right? So if we figure out that that's probably not important, then it should be a not given. Okay? We know that there was something there about personal digital assistants, but I don't remember any visualization about business communication. So here I would choose not given and just keep going. It's very dangerous to try to search for this because you can waste a lot of time figuring out that it's not given, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So
because I can't remember. I can't recall you having ever heard about. Have you ever read about digital assistants were developed to facilitate business communication?
Exactly. So and you have to be quick with these because this is where a lot of candidates lose time was with the not given questions. They'll waste like 5-6 minutes of valuable time, right? So we can't do that in this case. All right, Domenico, thank you so much for volunteering and enjoy those new headphones. I'm sure enjoying hearing your voice through the mic.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm just experimenting with a new settings on my new pair of noise blocking headphones. I'm getting a hang over them.
Awesome. They're keepers. Bye for now, Domenico. Have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Same to you.
Bye. All right, that was Domenico. Let's take somebody else. Fuang has been very patient. Fuang, are you ready? We'll get Fuang to help us finish this off. Let's see if she is there. Fuang, if you're there, let us know. All right. Thanks for the thumbs up, everybody. That's awesome. I know you're there, Fong, because you just gave 6 thumbs up.
Hi, sir.
Hi, Fong. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you, sir?
I'm fantastic. Are you ready to read a little bit?
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
All right. You should see it on the screen shortly here. One negative aspect. Go from there whenever you're ready.
Okay, sir. One negative aspect of capacity touch technologies is that user cannot use dollars or other objects, since the objects do not conduct electricity like finger. But it has changed in recent years. For example, in 2015, Apple unveiled the Apple Pencils, which use highly responsive sensor built into the tip of pencil to detect for position and pencil tips to provide a multitude of effects. What's in the future? Okay, sir. What's in the future of touchscreen? 50 years since their advent, the possibilities seem endless. One fact seems doubtless. However, touchscreens are a huge part of our life, and on evidence points to this staying the case for the foreseeable future.
Very, very good. All right. Okay, just repeat after me. Unveiled.
Unveiled.
Unveiled is like when you have an object. So let's say I have this box, okay? And then I have this box, and then the box is covered by a veil, like a cloth. You know when they do this sometimes with cars? You have a new car, and the car has like a cloth over it, so you can't actually see the car, and then somebody takes it and pulls it off really quickly, and there it is, a brand new Mercedes. That's called unveil. Okay, that's how you unveil. When you take the veil off, the veil is like a kind of a cloth. Okay?
Okay, sir, got it.
All right, so unveil. Unveil means to reveal. Reveal, unveil. Okay, let's take a look at these true, false, not given questions. Number 34, can you read that one for me, please?
Okay, sir. Multi-touch gesture facilitate the magnifications of web pages and photos.
Is it important? Multi-touch gestures facilitate the magnification of web pages and photos. Is that important for touchscreens?
I think it's important, sir.
I definitely agree. Could you imagine trying to use your phone if you can't do that? It'd be a different experience for sure. So important. So it's got to be given, right? Would you agree?
I agree.
Is it true?
I think it's true, sir.
I agree. So we put true, and away we go. Absolutely. Next one, number 35.
Not only is the capacity aspects of touchscreen more complex, it represents a fundamental transformation from iteration 50 years before.
Okay. Is it important? Not only is the capacitive aspect of touchscreens more complex, it represents a fundamental transformation from iterations 50 years before. Is it important to know this information?
I think it's important, sir.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's what we're using today, right? That the paragraph said that, those last ones, they said, hey, we're using that technology in our mobile phones. Is it true that they're more complex and there has been a lot of transformation from 50 years before?
I think it's phones.
Good. Stay with it, okay? For true, false, not given, so for the previous ones I said you should be about 80% sure, at least. For true, false, not given, if you're 60, 70% sure, you should give the answer and not search for it unless you have time. True, false, not given is a bit interesting that way. If you're 60 or 70% sure, you're probably right. Okay, we tend to be a little bit more unsure in these cases, even though we're correct. So I would write false and move on. And I agree with you. The passage says that the technology has pretty much stayed the same. So it's not a lot more complex and a lot different than 50 years before. All right, number 36. Go ahead and read that one.
Okay. Apples were the first company to unveil a highly responsive stylus able to detect form and position.
Is it important?
I think it's important, sir.
Okay, I would say maybe. Now here, if it's the last question, it's number 36, and I'm not 100% sure. I do remember that Apple was somewhere in the last paragraph, so I would just check. And the key part here is that they're the first company to unveil. So I would go back and I would check this one because I think it's an easy one to check. So here it says, for example, in 2015, Apple unveiled the Apple Pencil, which used highly responsive sensors. So was Apple the first company to unveil this type of pencil?
No, sir.
So we don't know, right? We don't know if they're the first company or somebody else did it before them. So we have to be careful with that one. I would just write not given in that case, okay? So here, it's actually not important that they're the first company. It's just a company that did it and everybody's familiar with. So not given would be better in this case. Does that make sense, Fuang?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. Fuang, thank you so much for volunteering and helping me with those tricky true, false, not given questions. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Have a nice day, sir. See you next class.
Thank you. See you next class. Bye, Fuang.
Bye-bye, sir.
All right, that was Fuang. It was really good. She did a really good job in those true, false, not givens. Those are tricky, especially that last one. Students, I've run out of time, but you should definitely try these last multiple choice questions and then send me your answers by email to my email address. Members, if you could put my email address into the chat, that would be great. You'll see these questions at the end of the video. Don't go too far. We've got listening coming up next, part 3 and 4, the challenging parts. So coming up in the next class, okay? And we're going to listen with materials on our websites and answer questions. So thank you so much, members. Thank you to all of my volunteers. You've been awesome today. aehelp.com for academic IELTS, gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. Go to those websites. Use the premium IELTS course to follow these live classes. They are the materials, the guides, the resources for these live classes. I will see all of you in a little bit less than 30 minutes, 25 minutes for some listening, practice, strategy, and better marks. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from beautiful Victoria, and I will see you shortly. Bye for now, everybody.